Recording in progress.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the September 21st meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff, Jen, Alyssa, Josh, Mark, and Kristen, for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. We have a full complement of commissioners tonight. Thank you all for your dedication. I'd like to remind you guys for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Please refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes will be done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then, at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, as an applicant, you want to hear a negative determination as it allows you to move forward with your project without the necessity of a full notice of intent application. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. Number 9 Sycamore, 127 Shorewood, and 0 Vineyard Ave. First up, vote minutes, August 31st, 2022. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I'd move approval as written, pending any comments this evening.
Gladfelter, second.
Thank you. All right. Are there any comments, questions on the minutes? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
Fartell guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, requests for determination of applicability. First up, Michael Herzig, 8 Nichols Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a breezeway connection between the existing garage and house. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Arlo Hawks, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no comments or questions. All right. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
Fartell guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Vincent and Rena Del Guido, 66 Chester Street, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a deck and install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Arlo Hawks, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no questions. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa,
Bartel, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, St. Barnabas Episcopal Church, 91 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to plant a permaculture garden between the Parish Hall and Sitter's Pond. Sitter's Pond. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawk second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no questions. All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawk aye.
Melissa?
Sounds lovely. Aye. Tug.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation.
Jamie,
Next up, yes,
I have a question.
I have all the answers.
Okay, good. The question is, what's a permaculture garden?
Ooh.
I will promote Jessica Rittenauer up to explain the St. Barnabas project to you all.
We already voted on it, just so you know.
Yeah. It's Hugels, right? Hugel culture.
Well, I don't know if that looks as if that we're this was a setup. This was not a setup.
All right, Beth. Jess is coming in. She's right here.
Hi.
Ms. Rittenauer, you're up.
Hi, I'm up. I have, hi, thanks for the question. And this, we have there, Kirsten Meyer Kaiser, who I believe is logged in, was our representative who was going to discuss the permaculture. I know you just have a brief moment for this, so I don't know if Jen, you can promote her up. She was our destined person, but I'll share a little bit while you try to do that. The project, it's all about, converting this lawn area. So the St. Barnabas team is focused on stewardship of the land and their natural resources. And they would like to ensure that this lawn area can be converted to gardens, primarily with native plants, edible. It's an edible landscaping, certainly for the congregation, but I know there's an openness, that the public can enjoy this as well. But it's about sustainability of the landscaping and the overall maintenance of the property and attracting pollinators and other species. Is Kirsten being promoted up, Jen?
She is. I just pierced.
Maybe she can just say a quick, sentence or two, and then we can move on. But we appreciate the support, and we're really eager and looking forward to be able to move this project forward. It's exciting.
Thanks, Jessica. And you captured a lot of what I was going to say. The impetus to implement a permaculture garden is response to the climate crisis. The Episcopal Church actually in 2021 declared a climate emergency, and St. Barnabas is aiming to convert part of our lawn area, which is currently a monoculture, into an area of higher biodiversity. The concept of permaculture is that it is a self-sustaining, low-maintenance garden design that supports native plants and plants that provide food for humans and animals, so that carbon is being sequestered out of the atmosphere and working its way to higher trophic levels. So some of the plants in our design include beach plums, cornelian cherries, sweet peas, things that are food producing. But for example, sweet peas are also a nitrogen fixer. And so it's designed so that the plants are supporting one another, exchanging nutrients, and that the fruit it produces can be used by insects, birds, and support biodiversity across the board.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Everyone should get rid
Betsy?
of their lawns.
Well,
That
it was
answer your question.
approved, so
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Thanks for the nice explanation. Right. And it'll be great to see it in bloom next summer.
Yes.
I'm hoping.
Yep. The plan is to have an initial planting phase this fall, larger planting phase next spring. So we should have it very well implemented and available for people to walk through and enjoy next summer.
Great. Well, good luck.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, next up, Mark Connolly, 253 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a farmer's porch. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. Any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawk's aye.
Melissa?
Dog eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, continued requests for determination of applicability. Cape Codder Condominium Trust, 28 Cape Codder Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to flush cut 7 black cherry trees. Ms. Bergeron?
I believe Teresa is here, Jen, to be
Yes.
promoted up to discuss the project.
I'm promoting Teresa up right now, and the board remembers this was the project where the staff had recommended a +3 on the trees because it is within your restoration project that you approved quite a few years ago. And the desire of the condominium owners was to flush cut and manage the trees as shorter shrub trees. And we just didn't think it was appropriate to be managing a tree like that. Also, again, it's in your restoration project. So that's why the staff recommended the positive, and you all had the opportunity to go out there and view the trees, and now you can discuss.
Thank you.
Good
Teresa
evening,
up.
everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flex Design. I'm here. My camera is not working this evening. I don't know what's going on with it, so I apologize. But I'm just here to listen to your discussion and give your final approval or not back to the Cape Cod Condominium Association.
All right, I'm going to poll for comments, make it simpler. Betsy?
I have no comments.
Okay. Courtney?
No, I don't have any comments either. I mean, it's, I'll defer to staff.
Kevin?
I'll second Court's position.
Maury?
I agree with staff's original recommendation.
Okay. Okay, I didn't want to steal somebody else's thunder, so that's why I skipped myself. So my comment or my question to Teresa is, what's the point of cutting these when all the cedars are taller?
So there is, without a doubt, the cedars are a significant view concern for the property owners, or some of the unit owners, I should say, first floor unit owners. They understand the Falmouth Vista pruning regulations do not allow them to prune or cut or remove and even remove dead limbs from cedars for Vista management purposes. So their hope is by flush cutting the cherry trees that are, some are intermingled as you move to the south with the cedar trees, and others are freestanding and not amongst cedar trees as you move further north on the property, but that will give them some relief. And again, it's mainly for the first floor unit owners in that one building. So while the association is the one proposing or has submitted the RDA, or we've submitted it on behalf of the association, it's really to help find some balance for just those few first floor unit owners whose views are obstructed by trees.
Okay. Melissa?
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, I had similar thoughts as you, Jamie. And then also when I was out there, all I could think of was, there are only two of those trees actually have no cedars near them. And they're all lovely trees, and they're all deciduous trees too. So half the year they are really not obstructing anything. And I would defer gladly to staff.
Okay. Steve?
Nothing extra to add. Thank you, sir.
All right, Teresa, do you have anything to add?
No, I will certainly report this back to the association. I do hope that you all as a commission had an opportunity to take a look at the rest of the property. It has been an incredibly successful restoration project. We have just a thriving native plant community in this area, really a fantastic mix of ground cover, shrub species, and of course, canopy species. And I agree, the cherry trees are, they rebounded robustly after they were released from the mats of porcelainberry and bittersweet and all of the other native vegetation that had originally, invasive vegetation that had originally been in that area. So you can see that things are really thriving. Both the sumac that's really rebounded beautifully throughout that area. It's a really thriving native plant community, which I'm really proud to have been a part of. But certainly I will bring this back to the association, and they can decide if they want to move forward with a notice of intent filing. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. All right, so the staff's recommendation is a +3 under the state and the, excuse me, the bylaw. So that's what we would be voting on first, I would say, or maybe only. So
I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
And Bird,
all right,
Everyone seconded it.
yeah, got that. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a +3 and a +3. If there's nothing else, we're going to take a vote. All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Melissa?
I tug aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
All right, it's unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you, staff. Sorry, Teresa.
No, thank you. And thank you for your consideration and for going out and taking a look at the site. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Night, Teresa.
Thank you.
Night.
Night.
All right, next up are requests for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Edward A. and Leah Marciacelli, trustees, Leah A. Marciacelli Trust, 131 Bay Road, North Falmouth, Mass., for permission to reconstruct and enlarge the front steps, relocate part of an existing retaining wall, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, remove an existing sunroom and deck, construct 2 additions with decks, and install mitigation plantings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted John O'Day up at Sullivan Engineering to present this project.
Mr. O'Day, you're up, sir.
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I'm here this evening representing my brother-in-law, Ed Marciacelli, and his wife, Lee. This is a property on Bay Road in North Falmouth. If I can bring up a plan for you all. Did I do it? Share. So this is a 1 1/3 acre parcel. We are bounded on the south by a stream. There's an existing dwelling on the property that was built in the 80s. Ed and his wife have been there, I think, 25 years, give or take, before me. There's a bordering vegetated wetland along the stream. Above the bordering vegetated wetland, there's a coastal bank that is below the road layout, and there's a secondary coastal bank above the roadway layout, probably from when the roadway was historically cut in there. So the most landward resource and its associated buffer zone, Zone A and Zone B, would be from this upper coastal bank area. We have today added some additional labels off to the side of the plan because we realize there are a lot of lines on here, but we have labeled the 100-foot riverfront area off to the side so you can follow that line across, the 25-foot Zone A line, the 200-foot riverfront line, and the 100-foot Zone B line. So as was described in the project description, looking to widen these front steps by about 2 feet. There is an addition proposed to the side of the house. And in order to construct that, there's an existing retaining wall along the side, which would just be pushed out and around it. To the back of the house where there's an existing sunroom and patio and deck, that sunroom would be removed and an addition constructed mostly within the existing footprint. It's about 1 foot or 2 wider than that. All the work is in the Zone B to that coastal bank area. All the work is in most of the work is in the outer riverfront area. The existing septic is not being upgraded as part of this project. The existing system has 2 separate leach fields, an original probably to the 80s, and then that was upgraded in the 90s with a system that's fully sized for the house. So the project is just abandoning or removing the original components that are still there, but the leaching field actually is staying, which was previously upgraded. In discussions with staff yesterday and today, they asked that there should be additional restoration for the work in the riverfront. Although they overlap with the buffer zones, they thought that the Commission's position would be that there should be the riverfront restoration in addition to the buffer restoration. So this is a revised plan drafted today that we've run by them, where we included the riverfront calculations and what we believe would be the mitigation required for that, and then added that up into a total mitigation area below. And we've shown some additional areas here in red just for ease of viewing tonight, where we could just kind of moderately expand upon those mitigation areas. I think with that, I would just be happy to answer any questions the Commission or the staff may have.
Thank you, sir. You can stop sharing, sir.
Okay.
All right. Jen, do you want to begin?
Sure, yes, I think John pretty much covered it. We did ask for additional mitigation plantings. There is some confusion right now whether it's a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. I do have a call into DEP. I explained that to John. So he added 1-to-1 on his plan. If it does come out that the DEP says it's 2-to-1, then we can condition that. So John's revisions were in response to the staff report that Alyssa produced, and he did review the plan with us this afternoon. And we're, like I said, we're fine with it moving forward tonight, although it may have to be, a revised plan may have to be submitted and conditioned if it does come out that DEP requires that 2-to-1. I need clarification from DEP. Because John and I couldn't figure it out, and it's so round about.
But everybody accepts that.
I don't think Alyssa has anything to add.
I only had thank you. I only had one additional comment. I think considering the mitigation is almost 2,000 square feet, we would usually require 2 trees to also be planted, but the Commission can speak more to that. And I did notice on site there was some dumping of debris by that southernmost coastal bank where it starts becoming more of a woodland area. Since there is a wetland there and we wouldn't want to put any extra debris down there and fill it, that'll just have to be moved elsewhere in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems we're a little confused about what our mitigation efforts are, but it looked like the plan was not terribly invasive and the mitigation efforts were solid, so I didn't have any other questions.
Thank you. Melissa.
Here we go. The plan was lovely, not at all to read, because yeah, it'd be nice in the future if we had labeled plans. But I had two questions. One, the patio in the back is really, really extensive. And I know on the plan, you mentioned that you were going to be building these additions with decks. Are you going to be removing the patios as well, or are the patios staying underneath or wherever?
So a portion of what's patio will be part of this addition, and porch that's associated with it, and deck. And then there's maybe 6 or 8 feet of existing patio that are beyond that footprint that would stay, just transitioning down into the yard. But
okay, so that's
no
going to stay. Okay, and then question about the driveway. I mean, you've got here 2 coastal banks, and in between is the old right-of-way for Bay Road. And it looks like that area off when you pull in, you know, the drive goes up to the left of the house, but it looks like off to the right towards what you have listed on the plan that I have, fallen tree stump, which is a snap tree. It looks like it's used as a parking area. Is that indeed the case?
That is the case, yes.
So we've got people parking vehicles in a coastal bank. And there's a potential, and it's in the flood zone, the FEMA zone as well. And right below it, that river is actually, there's a herring run there. So I don't know, I'm just a little concerned that the mitigation plantings aren't, you know, sort of preventing vehicles from leaking fluids and things into the riverway and the herring run. And I was looking at it kind of baffled, wondering how, I mean, I know it's the old road, but it just doesn't strike me as anything positive for the environment. And, you know, you have your mitigation planting sort of split by this parking area. It seems a little incongruent to me to the goals of preserving wetlands. So just thoughts, especially if we need to double up the mitigation plantings, maybe I would be interested to see that little parking area no longer be parking area. Just a thought.
I understand the concern. I think that when we were laying out the mitigation areas, we certainly started on the southern side of that.
Mm-hmm.
I had concerns about planting stuff within it is still a way layout, and I was concerned about whoever else may have rights within that. So it's not, so that's why we tried not to block any of the access that is there today. I understand the concern. It's not actually in a bank, it's in between two tiers of a bank, but I understand.
Because it is a herring run that's coming back now, so it's starting to thrive again. It would be really nice to see that herring run thrive once again. So I see the conundrum there. Okay. Well, thank you. That's all for now.
All right. Maury?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
I am a little hesitant to go forward because there seems to be some uncertainty about so much, but if staff is confident that they can resolve these issues that seem to leave a little bit of uncertainty at such a late point in the review process, I would be willing to go forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Courtney.
I have no questions.
Betsy.
No questions and no comments. Thanks, Jamie.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Jamie, I can address Kevin's concerns. Kevin, we did speak with Mr. O'Day today regarding that. It's just, it's a really confusing section of the Riverfront regulations, and we're just seeking clarification from DEP. We did speak with John and say there is a possibility that an additional 463 square feet of plants, may be required, and we'll condition that. And I'm confident that we can work with Sullivan Engineering and get that plan in.
Thank you, John. I'm reassured.
Okay, so we could make a finding on that, I believe is what you just said.
Correct.
And then John, you accept that?
Yes, we understand that. We understand that requirement.
All right. Betsy, get your hand up.
Yeah, so I just had I did have a comment about something that John said. Initially, you said something about there would be mitigation for the riverfront and also for the our buffer regs. And I suppose if we were in a town where the buffer wasn't a resource, then I might understand the confusion, but buffers are resources here in town, and the riverfront is always going to contain buffer to some resource. So that I was just confused that you said that. I was confused that you were confused, but I think Jen's going to get us all on the same page.
I agree.
Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually would be more comfortable if we could hold off and wait and see what the result is going to be, because we've got old plans in front of us. Mr. O'Day just presented us with a new plan online there that I can barely see. And I was in the office today emptying out my mailbox. And this is a plan from, I don't know how many weeks ago it is now. From September 2nd is the plan that I have in my hands. I was just hoping that, we could at least get copies of the updated plan. And then if things need to be changed, that we at least see what the new plan would be. Because 400 square feet is not just a little corner. That's my thoughts.
If the board feels more, comfortable continuing it, we could continue it. I should have an answer by next week, or I should have an answer this week. I know that 2 of your continued hearings are not going forward next week, so we could put it on for next week's hearing and try to get to a plan as soon as possible. Would that be acceptable?
I don't have a problem with the way it is.
I don't either. The outcome is going to be the same. It's just going to be 400 more square feet or not.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Right. So, yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Carlo Hawk, second.
Oh.
Sorry, Kevin beat you.
Oh.
That's all right. This is good. All right. So we have a motion and a second on the table to close the hearing. Mr. O'Day, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't. I appreciate the staff's guidance so far, and we'll continue to work with them.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the staff? From commissioners? All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing. No one's hand is raised, and there's nothing in the chat function, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Again, the motion and the second on the table is to close the hearing. We're going to vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Paula Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Hartog, no.
Steve.
And I.
All right, majority. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. O'Day.
Thank you all. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Good night, John.
All right. Next up, Joseph and Kathleen Clark, 250 Alder Lane, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to clear an access path, conduct invasive species management and restoration, and to vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Berselli from Falmouth Engineering and Katrin from Wilkinson Ecological Design to present their project. Is there anybody else, Mike?
No, there isn't, Jen. The applicant's in the audience, but he doesn't need to be impaneled in case, unless there's a specific issue or question for him. He's going to just listen.
Okay, Mr. Clark, if you would like to address the board, just please hit the raise hand function and I'll promote you up to a panelist.
All right, Mr. Borselli, you're up there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Katrin Higgins from Wilkinson Ecological Design. We represent Mr. Clark, who owns the property at number 250 Alder Lane. Some of you may remember this property. There's a lengthy history to it. The net result is no development went forward from the previous attempts. Mr. Clark acquired the property from a previous owner. He lives diagonally across the street and acquired it, the properties for very passive recreational purposes, and assuming you can approve our application. The activities include invasives management, vista pruning, and a path that provides access from the lot frontage on Alder Lane through the lot down to the common areas of the homeowners association. The property is infested with invasives. That it is completely wooded. The wetland resources include at the most westerly side. I guess I should ask permission to share my screen. I don't think I'm sharing.
Please do.
We're not.
I've lost my touch.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm sharing now. There's a salt
There's a
marsh
seminar next week on Tuesday, Mike, on sharing screen.
Thank you. I'm a little rusty. There's a salt marsh system on the west side of the lot. That's on the homeowners association property. And as you work your way in an easterly direction, there's woodland and invasives vegetation. And then you'll notice a shaded area on the lot. That is the area that meets the definition of coastal bank in accordance with the DEP policy number 92.1, because it's in a flood zone and it has a slope between 4:1 and 10:1. The top of the bank is identified here, and the associated A and B zones are also shown on the plan. This plan is a general plan. The specifics of the activities are on the Wilkinson plan, but we just showed the access path. The property lines were recently staked, and there's not a lot of detail on my plan, but it is the survey plan with in the basis for the design that was done by Wilkinson. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katrin, and I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Katrine, how are you?
Hi, good evening. I'm fine, thanks. Let me share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as Mike outlined, first of all, Katrine Higgins from Wilkinson Ecological Design. As Mike outlined, we're proposing invasive plant management, the creation of a modest view corridor with the associated path. And this is all to benefit the residents of 251 Alder Lane. Vegetation growing on the site is primarily composed of a native overstory of pitch pine, oak, sassafras, black cherry, and eastern red cedar. Really a dense woodland exists throughout this entire area. And the understory is really where it's invaded with bittersweet shrub and vine honeysuckle, multiflora rose, and escaped ornamental plants like vinca vine. So we're proposing to manage all the invasive plants, replant with native plants where appropriate, and then to selectively manage sapling trees, not mature trees, but sapling trees within the formalized view corridor. To remove the invasive and non-native species, as we typically do, we propose to either use mechanical removal with low impact equipment where there's more easier access, and then handwork closer to the resource area and closer to the marsh where access would be much more limited. Following the invasive plant management, we would seed any bare soils, and that would be with the native seed mix listed on the restoration plan. We would also, anywhere where there were sloped areas where we're assuming that we will need some erosion control blanketing on the steeper spots, but not throughout the entire area, just to use that to temporarily hold the soils in place until the grasses that we're putting down in the seed mix can take place to establish and stabilize the soil. Really, the area we're not anticipating to impact a lot of the ground layer because, and a lot of the duff would remain because this isn't a full invasive removal. A lot of these areas would be untouched because of just there aren't the invasives growing throughout, as we would see in some other projects where it's 100% invasive. This area has a lot of native duff that would just remain in place that we wouldn't really be disturbing. In addition, I don't know if you were out on the site, but you may have seen there's some debris, trash, remnant structures, I think in like an old doghouse, and scattered kind of throughout the site, and we would be removing all of that. And then regarding the view corridor, we were proposing on our plan, as you can see, a formalized 25-foot wide vista corridor from the residence at 251. And this would be focused through the invasive removal of the shrubs and the vines, and then selective management of some of the sapling sassafras that are growing within that area. I believe there was a question about the percent invasion of this area, and I would say it's about 40% invaded, but it's somewhat hard to determine because we're not removing any of the dense canopy. No large trees will be removed, so that whole canopy layer will remain in place. So you can see from our restoration plan, native plant restoration will take place primarily within that view corridor where we're doing most of the work, and where the invasive plants and the saplings will have been removed. And as our restoration plan shows, we're proposing woody plant species such as arrowwood, inkberry, witherod, viburnum, and high-tide bush. High-tide bush would be closer to the marsh. And these species all can handle, it's densely shaded, so these species are all appropriate for shade conditions. And a pathway is also proposed. We really focus that on the middle of the view corridor where it's currently fairly open and accessible. So when you think about how this would benefit the resource area, I think the increased plant species will provide, especially that shrub layer, will provide more diversity available for wildlife, especially songbirds during migration time like now where they're looking for berries that will be on the arrowwood, for example. And then that herbaceous layer that's really not existing there now, species like Deschamps and little blue stem will just provide more stability and storm water function for the site. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Jen, want to start?
Yes. Did you answer the question about how it was going to be maintained if there's no irrigation over there? I might have missed that.
I didn't answer that, and that was a really good question. It's one that we haven't quite figured out yet. We would like the ability to use the temporary irrigation, and we're hoping it probably, but it's because it's an undeveloped site. Obviously, there's no irrigation available there, but it's something we're going to have to figure out.
I can fill in the blanks on that, if you don't mind. When I got the staff report, I did some research, and this development was, the road system was built back in the 70s, early 70s. So I researched at the water department, and there is in fact a water service on the property, because when the road was built, they dropped the water service for each lot. So there is an active water service with a service number. They haven't installed a meter, but the water is available without any cuts in the road. It's just a matter of tying into the water service, putting a meter, and then we could do what we typically do, which is above ground temporary irrigation as necessary. I can share that. If you'd like, I can share that water meter tie card, they call it, with you. So if you'd like that, I can share that with you.
Where is the water coming into the lot? Is it the center? Is it off to the sides?
I'll show you very briefly. This is the tie card. Notice it says new service, December 14th, 1970. And it's pretty much dead center on the lot.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
And Mike, you're going to put the vista on your plan as well?
Yes, I can submit a revised plan that shows the lines that represent the 25-foot corridor on my plan as well.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Maury.
I just had a couple comments. Nobody mentioned the V zone here. There is a V zone on the lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I just think that should be, it's really hard to see on the Wilkinson mics. It's very clear. So we just have to remember that this is a high impact area and vegetation is very important in a V zone. The other question I did have that on the Wilkinson, I wish they would put Mike's was great for the trees. It said, tree, but they really should be identified on the plans so that we know what they are out there, if they're missing or if they're growing. And the next thing was there's 16,700 square feet, this lot is. And on the left of Wilkinson's plan, it shows an arrow that says project area, all invasives and non-native plants to be removed. And I'm glad that they did give us a certain percentage of 40%, because the area of the view corridor is around 2,100 square feet. And that leaves roughly 14,600 square feet that's going to be managed, which is a lot of area with only 101 shrubs proposed. So I think if 40% of this lot is going to be managed, I think we should see what is going to be planted in those managed areas of the remaining 14,000 square feet, because that's a lot of area that might just end up with grass and pollinators. And this being in a V zone, I really think we need woody indigenous to have some sort of barrier between nature and the, Alder Lane. And let's see what else. The other thing was it was 1 to 5 gallon. And I think we need to nail down, is it a 1 gallon or is it a 5 gallon? We're leaving that an awful lot of open room for the landscape of this to be, a bunch of little teeny 1 gallons or whatever. I mean, maybe 1 gallons are great there, but if it's 1 gallon, then we need more than 101 of them. And I think that's all. In the view corridor, it says, I got my scale out, and it goes from 25 feet to near the salt marsh where it goes up to 40 feet. But that is getting planted, so that works out well. Thank you.
All right. Melissa.
Maury was quite thorough. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thank you. I would agree with those comments as well. Thank you, Maury.
I think now we'll just start with Maury and then we'll be done with comments, Betsy.
I have nothing to add.
Wow. Courtney?
Although I will say, Mike mentioned that there are a few of us, Maury and Court and Jen are part of it, who have been very familiar with this property for a long time. And it's nice to see its current, or what's about to be its current condition.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jamie.
Just giving you enough time, it's casual. Courtney.
No, I don't have anything other than it's already been said. I have nothing to say. It's okay. It's a good project.
Katrine, do you think you could have a plan to us by next week? So you could be on the 5th, if that works for you guys?
Sure. So one thing, I'm hearing that you would like more shrubs. I hear that. What the view corridor itself is about 5,000 square feet, and that's where really like the most amount of removal is. There are areas where we're not going to need to remove anything because there's no invasives growing there now. For example, all along the salt marsh, there's high tide bush growing there. So I'm thinking, would it be helpful for us to kind of give more detail of what's going on in those areas that we're not showing the shrubs? Because it doesn't need a ton of more shrubs, I don't think, because of what's growing there now. And once we do this removal, for example, there's viburnum growing more upland, and say it's next to a shrub honeysuckle. So we remove the shrub honeysuckle, that viburnum is going to flourish as it is, and we don't need to plant something else in that area. But right along the roadside, there might be an opportunity to add a few more shrubs and maybe even increase the diversity, like add more black chokeberry, which is another good shrub for migration times for birds. But would that be helpful to just identify where maybe there's more clusters that could be added in here? But to say that the whole area needs more shrubs, it really doesn't, because of what's existing there now and what's growing there and what is, there's small viburnums and things like that that will flourish once we do this work.
Maury?
I'm getting my scale out. I'm sorry, I'm just scaling right this second.
All right, we're going to come back. Kevin?
I'm fine. Thank you.
I stand corrected. It is 3,500 in the view corridor. Right. I use Mike's plan because Wilkinson's is so small, it's very hard to scale.
Katrine, I do think adding more detail like that would be helpful so they can visualize the areas that are more impacted with invasives as opposed to native.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really helpful when the your plan and Mike's plan are the same scale. They show the same scale. Thing. Yeah. Like yours doesn't even have the 25-foot setback, I don't think, for the Falmouth B zone, or it makes it difficult.
Yep, I hear you. I'll remember that for the next Falmouth project we have.
All right. Mike or Katrin, do you have anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, it sounds like you want a continuance. Are these things that could be resolved by submitting a revised plan and avoid? We're just kind of cognizant of the time of year.
No, I think this one's a little bit more detailed than adding just more mitigation plans, Mike. So I think it does require the board's review on a revised plan.
Okay.
Okay.
It could be next week though, Jen?
Yeah, I know 2 hearings you have continued for, next week they would have to have the revised plan in by next week, and then we could hear it on October 5th.
What day next week? We can do that.
If you can have the plan into us by Wednesday of next week,
Sure.
we can have you on October 5th. We can have you in again in 2 weeks.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant to continue this to October 5th.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until October 5th. Mike and Katrine, you're clear on what we're looking for?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa,
Talk guy.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We've continued this until October 5th. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Katrine.
Thank you.
I understand you're having a party. Enjoy your party. Jen, if there's any photo opportunities, please share them.
Blackmail. Yeah, the engineer party is on October 32nd at 5 o'clock, so don't be late.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike.
Good night.
All right, next up, continued hearings under notice of intent. 357 West Falmouth Highway, LC. 357 West Falmouth Highway, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, and to construct a new single-family dwelling with a garage and covered porch. To reconfigure the driveway, to install a pool, patio, stormwater infiltration system, and a new sewage disposal system. To conduct invasive species management and restoration, and all associated grading and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Brad Holmes up and Ben Carroll, the property owner, up to continue presenting their project.
Thank you, members of the commission. We were here a couple weeks ago for the proposed residential reconstruction project, 357 West Falmouth Highway. Along with me this evening is Ben Carroll, the applicant. We presented the project and we left the meeting with the commission so that we could provide some more specificity on the mitigation plantings within the buffer zone requirements, and also the vernal pool area. I know it's not a buffer zone to the vernal pool, but the distance between the vernal pool. So we were able to prepare and submit a revised plan. Thank you, Jen and Alyssa. We were able to coordinate with you both and improve on the plan and submit the plan that's in front of you that has a increased mitigation proposal within the buffer zone to the vegetative wetland and the setback to the vernal pool. The planting has been increased to about a 4.4 to 1 ratio of native plantings. The project remains the same. We haven't changed any of the components other than removing the proposed pool patio that was within the 100-foot setback to the vernal pool. So that has been reduced, but the project remains the same. The mitigation has been increased. And we were able to discuss this with Jen and Alyssa, and I think we came to an agreement on the importance of the area and the ecological benefits. So I'll leave it at that. I can pull up the screen if you like, but I think we're very close to the last meeting. You just had some more questions on the specific.
All right. Ben, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, Brad, can you bring up your screen just so the board can see? Thank you.
Can the board see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So the brown shaded area is the proposed mitigation area that's been increased from the required 2 to 1 for the pink area of expansion into the 100-foot buffer zone to the increased area within the buffer zone in the 100-foot setback to the vernal pool. We've also provided the details within the buffer zone area, and this hatched area provides more detail on the plantings that we're looking to do in that area, which would be just fruit trees and fruiting shrubs.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, you can stop sharing. So we did meet with Brad, and we had concerns with the original plan that just provided almost like a little 10-foot buffer to that vernal pool, and they are removing a lot of invasive vegetation. And although the board usually requires, invasives to be replaced with natives, in this case, the entire site was just so completely overgrown, we couldn't really determine, where there was an original buffer, and we just felt it wasn't appropriate to have them plant the entire backyard again, just because it had been unmaintained and overgrown and everything. But I couldn't support the green area with the really increased spacing and the plantings unless that vernal pool was more protected. So we met with Ben and Brad and kind of went over at least my concerns and, requested that they put in, a 30-foot so wide buffer just to further protect that vernal pool. And then we could support the rest of the project with the spacing and the green hatching and the fruit trees and the mulch. And I think it was a nice compromise, unless Alyssa has anything to add. Oh, Brad, I do have one question. The components of the septic system, are they H20 load?
I don't believe they are now. Ben, I'll ask you about that. I know we're going to use this field and replace the
tanks,
right? So they would be if we're having a driveway over there.
Yeah, you would have to have H20 load tanks.
I'm told by the engineer that we can have the driveway over them, so that would tell me that they're H20.
Okay.
The ones that currently exist.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't know if Alyssa has anything to add.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ben and Brad, stay on that septic for a second. Please review what you're upgrading, what you're changing, what you're keeping that's original.
As far as the septic components?
Yes, sir.
Sure. The septic system leach field was actually upgraded not that long ago, and we can reuse it for the project. There will be new tanks installed to support the existing leach field. So it's not a septic system repair and replace, it's just a replacement of the tanks.
Okay, but are the tanks going under the driveway?
Partially, yes.
So they will be required to be H20.
Whatever they need to be, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Board of Health will require that. But the leaching field itself is not under the driveway, is that correct?
It's further to the south of the driveway.
So it's not going to be under
correct.
the driveway.
It's not within the driveway.
Okay. All right. If that was fairly recent, you should be able to get the as-built out of Board of Health for what that's worth. All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Maura, you're not on the quorum on this. Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for adding some trees to your plan. It's encouraging. You list 9 fruit trees. That basically compensates for that massive, gorgeous fruit tree on the property. I'm just wondering, curious, what kinds of, you don't have any detail as to which kinds of fruit trees you're planning on planting? I'm just wondering what they might be.
Sure. I'm not sure about the existing massive fruit tree that there's a Kwanzaa cherry tree.
Cherry tree, yeah. It's got like 8 trunks coming out of it.
Right, it's correct. I wouldn't consider it a fruit tree, but
flowering.
But we're
cherry.
looking it's more of an ornamental flowering, but we're looking to do some apple trees and some blueberry bushes, just to Mr. Carroll enjoys of apple trees, and we're looking to have a mini orchard to, instead of having an expanded lawn, is to have that area as a kind of orchard garden area.
Great. Thank you for the clarification. That's it.
All right. Steve?
Thank you. I think this plan came together. Thank everybody for the cooperation.
Betsy?
2 comments. One is I like Jen's rationale for adding a little more buffer for the vernal pool. And just to Ben in particular, I guess, there is an expert in the town who grows a lot of different kinds of varieties of apple trees. Are you aware of that person?
I'm not, but I'd love to know more.
All right. Well, I'll get his name and address and give it to Jen and have her pass it on.
That would be great. Every house I've ever bought, I sneak fruit trees into landscaping and see how long it takes people to notice.
Yeah, well, he's into these special varieties of apple trees. So good luck.
Thank you.
That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney?
I have no comments, but ask Betsy can you pass his name on to me too? Because I got some apples I want to graft.
Oh, all right, I will. He'll be pleased if there are more apple growers in town.
Well, we're putting more apple trees so.
There you go. More apple teenies. Hey, all right. Never mind. Any more comments or questions from the board?
Nice project.
Brad, Ben, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Nothing from us. Thanks. I want to thank again Alyssa and Jen for the help in coordinating the project and bringing it back to the commission.
Excellent. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Let's have a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement then.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa?
Hi, Tug, aye.
Steve?
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for a nice project.
All right, next up, Peter and Valerie Mazzina, 127 Sherwood Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management to construct and maintain a pier, ramp, and float in Great Pond, and to request a variance from FWR 10.16 1D1. Jen?
Mr. Chairman, they are requesting a continuance until November 2nd.
Wow.
Is this Sherwood?
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Bird second.
Is this Sherwood?
Yes.
November 2nd?
November 2nd.
right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till November 2nd. Any questions or comments at this point? All right, we're voting on the continuance to 11/2. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until November 2nd. Next up, Mario Kula and Josephine D'Angelo, 9 Sycamore Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, and construct a new single-family dwelling on pilings, to remove an existing shed, and to construct a utility platform and a gravel driveway. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until October 26th.
So moved, Carla Hawks.
Bird, second.
Bear with me. All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this until October 26th. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Fragile guy.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until October 26th. Next up, continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. Karen and David Howe, 0 Vineyard Street, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4580 to adopt the special conditions associated with the Department of Environmental Protection superseding order of conditions. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they are requesting a continuance until October 26th. They are waiting for the presiding officer at DEP to sign the final settlement agreement and final order, superseding order of conditions.
So moved, Carla Hawks.
Gladfelder, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this amendment until 10/26. There's no questions or comments. All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Fragile guy.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until October 26th. Next up, vote order of conditions. John G. Butte, 41, Mary Manuel Way, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this was the request to amend. They're changing the driveway around and they are reconfiguring the house and the garage. So just a revised layout of the house, garage and driveway.
So we don't really need to add anything to the existing order conditions, correct?
Not unless you want something done with the vegetation that was removed out of the center of that turnaround. There were some trees, but again, the drainage system in there, and it was probably a good thing the trees were removed. But if the board wanted to see something else return there, it would have to.
Is that in our jurisdiction?
Now it is. It wasn't before. It is it is in your jurisdiction.
You mean if there are trees, there are too many leaves, clog up the drainage system?
No, the root systems of the trees.
Oh.
That's where the drainage system is. Remember, I said when this drainage system, when this road layout was permitted, that was not in our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction came edge of the road. But that was prior to the FEMA flood maps changing. And when they changed, it pushed it pushed that coastal bank up the slope, and it pushed the buffer zones. So you can absolutely condition it.
So what would you recommend?
I don't know.
Shrubs, a pollinator.
Yeah, something like that. Something that's not going to damage that system. To pollinator garden.
Pollinator garden would be nice. Is there enough sun there?
Oh yeah. Down there, yeah.
What was the point of stripping it out?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember what Tom said. I think they said it just looked bad. But that drainage system, that order of conditions that had, because it had the drainage system on it, and we just put in a condition, even though the system was outside jurisdiction at the time of the operation and maintenance of it, it's tied to that 41 Mary Manuel Way property. That order of conditions is tied to this property. So I think a nice pollinator garden and some natural wildflowers will do well there.
Oh, wait. So, Mary, I'm thinking of a different property. So this is the one that had the dead end, the cul-de-sac that was cleared out. Yeah. Okay. Oh, definitely pollinator garden. Okay. Sorry. I was thinking a different one.
All right.
I think I feel.
Anything else?
How many properties I have in the head?
I'll make a motion.
I'm not on the quorum. I don't believe.
Yes, you are.
I have you on it.
We had it last week, Maury.
Okay.
You were here last week.
Yep, I was.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed with pollinator garden.
Hawk second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Is there anything further? All right. We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Hello, Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Hi, Tug Eye.
Steve.
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions.
Wow, it's early, Jamie.
And that, folks, is all we have. One more motion.
I make a motion to adjourn. Harlow Hawks.
And
Second. Ooh.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Harlow Hawks eye.
Hi, Tug Eye.
and aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.